So, I've heard fake it till you make it for years and never liked it.
Keep the grain in the picture, I say. Old school, 35-0.
My philosophy is be it till you see it.
I'm seeing this through a lens, I am, and I'm not talking about the small screen.
I am 44, and I have learned most lessons the hard way. I have learned a very valuable lesson that the ability to transform yourself is paramount. You can call it identity shifting. So I'm going to tell you about my incarceration transformation and the systems that I know of to change yourself for the better. Maybe you got the gift of a moment of clarity or a vision, or maybe you had the gift of misery and you woke up and realized you are not living the life that you want. Maybe you're struggling with addiction or toxic relationship, or you just can't find your purpose, but you've had a feeling that you can't ignore, that you know you need to change. There is no other time, and I promise you, if nothing changes, nothing changes. We have these feelings for a reason, and you've had this feeling for a reason. You should use it as a motivator while you can. The systems of transformation that I know, you generally either work from the top down or the bottom up, being actions, thoughts, beliefs, identity. If you have the power to shift your identity from the top down, that's probably easier. If you don't have the power to do what you want to do, then you have to go from the bottom up and rely on a higher power. Pay attention to feelings, whether it's more negative or more positive. Most people are in the middle, where it's a good mix of both. But there are definitely people where there's so much going wrong and so much of your time and mindset is negative that you can consider that you're in the bottom part, which would be like a struggling mindset. There's times where kind of everything's going right, you've kind of got everything clicking. That would be an abundant mindset. There's 3 systems that I'm going to tell you about. The differentiating factor is whether you have the power to do it on your own or not. So, my incarceration transformation, this was my most recent biggest change. I woke up in prison. Back up a little bit, and I've been in and out of drug recovery for 20 years. I had a problem, got clean, transformation, and then over time I got away from it and would relapse and then got clean again and went through some of those, and eventually I was clean long enough to rebuild my life and have a family and finish college. And then I had a particularly bad relapse. I lost my mom, went off the deep end, did a bunch of really dumb stuff, got some drug charges, and ended up with a bunch of felonies and had to take a plea for 6 months. So I found myself in jail. A couple weeks in, the withdrawal was kind of over, and I was at least thinking clearly. I had lost custody of my son, that was the biggest loss. And I spent most of my time with the crushing guilt of knowing that him and my wife were out in the world without me to take care of them. So it was worry and guilt and fear, and it was terrible. Something to know about me that I'll explain a little more in a minute. I had an experience that gives me kind of access to higher states or psychedelic states or connection to the universe, or I'm not sure what to call it, but these states are transformative in nature, or they can be. So I came out of a particularly intense one knowing what I was and what I needed to do, and that was to be a good father, to involve myself and be available and involved as much as possible in my son's life. From prison, that's a little bit difficult, but I called him every day, a lot of days, more than once. I wrote him kind of a running letter just all the time, and I would mail it after it got to be 10 or 11 pages long. So we were in constant contact. I was very involved in his life. Fast forward a little while, and his mother-in-law, who had custody, we had to sign over to, She got on the phone on one of the calls and told me she was amazed at the transformation that I had made, and that they were very proud of me, and that if I moved near them after I got out, that I could see my son anytime I wanted, which was a major change because we only had supervised visitation, so they did not have to let me see him at all. Fast forward a little while longer, and it's been 3 years now, almost, since we got full sole legal permanent custody, like we never lost it. So I was transformed. I knew I was transformed. I had to do the work that was directed to me to do by that transformation. And I had to put in the work over time and create enough evidence to match the confidence. And at that point, the world saw me as I saw myself, as a good father. This is a lot easier to do if you either have the power, or what I had to do was rely on a higher power. And that's kind of how you determine where to start. But if you have an issue with higher power type stuff, I would like to explain how I believe God is proven. I am a Christian today, but back then I had been brought back to God, had my mind open to God, and proven that God is real and is everything. So I got there a very, weird series of events. I was always bad at math. I was always gifted and very smart, but I was always bad at math. And I failed calculus for non-engineers at an engineering school, so it's kind of the easiest math class that they have. I was suspended for bad grades. While I was out, the turn of the millennium happened, and me and my friends had an acid party, and I took a lot more than everybody else. I had had many successful acid trips, mind expanded, all that stuff. And this was very different. It was jarring and very uncomfortable. It was life-altering. It kind of destroyed my ability to think for several months. I couldn't speak for 3 weeks. I had permanent visuals. It was green aura circle in front of my face, 24 hours a day, eyes open or closed. It was not good, but it did give me kind of the cheat code to everything I would come to find out, including math. It gave me kind of, like access to the universe, to behind the curtain type stuff. It was pretty crazy, still is. But I went back to school and I took that same class and I made an A+ without trying at all. And I had several white light realizations while I was staring at derivatives and things like that. So I changed my major to math, physics, and economics. And for the next 3 years, I made Dean's List. And without really trying, learned all of that stuff. Kind of already knew the math. It's hard to describe. But I finished all my majors, that triple major, with honors. And a chemistry minor that I got by accident because I took so many chemistry classes because it was fun. So in all of that, I learned what I'm sure a lot of you already also know, that 99.9% of all matter is empty space, that electrons may or may not even be real, that we don't know where they are. A lot of crazy stuff just with that. And also the Big Bang Theory that is generally accepted as true, that all matter and all energy was at an infinitely small point. All matter and all energy at an infinitely small point. Seems really obvious when you think about it one way, that an object in motion stays in motion, object at rest stays at rest. If there's nothing, then nothing continues to be nothing. If there's something, then it's something. This was nothing and then everything. So to me, that's blatantly obvious. That is God. God was all of the stuff in that infinitely small point, and then from then until now has just been expanding and condensing, and still God is everything. I don't know how to explain or square the idea of suffering and why some people have it so much better than others. That seems so unfair. I am assuming that it's because we do not understand time. Time might not be at all what we think it is, and it's definitely incomprehensible. The way that I visualize thinking about time is that God created a timeline, like a painting of all of time from the beginning to the end. And we exist in tiny little slices. I have a whole video on this if you want to see it. Also, the acid trip thing, a whole video on that. But we exist in these little slices so that we can only see the present moment. And the future is revealed to us one moment at a time, but from God's perspective, it's all there. Now, this is just a visualization. I don't actually think God made an actual timeline, but basically that all of time has already been created, that the future has kind of already happened in a sense. That is why we are finding out about it. To me, it makes it very easy to believe what seems obvious, that God is everything, and also that everything is the way it is supposed to be because God made it. And nothing is a mistake. That likely means that about the suffering, it's not to punish. It's just a lack of our understanding, and that it will be either rewarded or fixed or, equaled or something. That it's not just a crapshoot. So the higher power being, is so easy to find a power greater than yourself, knowing all of that. The methods of transformation that I know, where to start is to determine whether you have the power to make the change. You want to decide who it is you want to be. And then if you can be that, like if you're trying to learn to play the guitar, you probably have the power to do that. If you are hooked on painkillers and trying to not be, then you probably don't have the power to do that. If it's something you've tried to do over and over and haven't been able to do it, then the way we say it in recovery is your best thinking got you here, and you should try something different. The 12-step system is, if you decide or figure out that you don't have the power, then you need to access the power. So the 12-step system is a spiritual program of action where you do 12 steps and then are awarded with a spiritual awakening, a total psychic change. It was developed by people trying to deal with self-destructive, habitual behaviors. You can apply it to anything. If you really live it, then it's a little, for if you're trying to get clean from something, or if you're dealing with a sex addiction or something like that, then it's a very much an all-encompassing type of process. The introduction to it is the first 3 steps, and those are to admit you're powerless, you believe in a higher power that can restore you to sanity, and you decide to turn your life over to the care of this higher power, praying only for knowledge of your higher power's will for you and the power to carry that out. That is quite critical. If you get to the point where you're trying to do the first 3 steps, you'll probably realize that you've already done them, or they've already happened to you. The 12-step system is a total transformation, and that's a very good thing in life. If you're not deliberate about what you do, then your actions tend to be dictated by your environment, and over time your actions turn into thoughts, which turn into beliefs, which turns into your identity. So it can get away from you pretty fast, and you can end up a place where you're drinking all the time, or smoking weed more than you want, or eating all the time for comfort and gaining a bunch of weight and getting out of shape. There's a lot of ways that it can manifest in a very uncontrollable addictive behavior where you will need the 12 steps. A lot more people are eligible to use that system than probably are aware of it. So the way that you figure it out is you decide who you want to be, you decide the change you want to make, and then you try to make it. And if you can't make it because you don't have the ability, then you probably need the 12-step system. If you have the ability and the power to make the change yourself, then it's more of a top-down, more of an identity shift where you change your identity and then the thoughts, beliefs, and actions all follow. Identity shifting transformation is not based on a higher power. It's based on the power of your mind, and it's based on the idea that you can think your way into better acting or into the kind of acting you want to do. So the first step is deciding who you want to be, and the way to look at it after that is that you want to become that kind of person that is that way. So the becoming is the work, and there are a lot of little mechanisms to use to do that. There's a lot of videos on this. Joe Dispenza is a great one. A lot of it sounds like, like frou-frou stuff, and if you don't have the power to do it, it can be. Limiting beliefs are the main obstacle that most people face. It's not something in the world, it's something in you. One of the most important things about shifting your identity is creating new neural pathways. You do that by thinking the thoughts that you want to think, to have the beliefs you want to have the identity that you want to have. So you want to have gratitude that you've already become the thing you want to be. That creates neural pathways that are the neural pathways you would have if you got the thing and then were grateful for it. You want to immerse yourself as much as possible in the kind of things that the kind of person you want to become would be doing, thinking, feeling, believing. And as with any kind of self-improvement, awareness is the first part. You want to be aware of what you want to be. You want to be aware of what you are. You want to be aware of the change you need to make. Journaling is a great way to do that. Journaling about how you feel about certain things. I'm going to give you some thought-provoking questions at the end of this that hopefully will help. The third system of transformation is neuro-linguistic programming, and this uses the profound link and feature of being human that our brains use language as a map of reality in order to create our own personal simulation. It's been proven by modern science that that's what our brain does. It takes in lots of data and then creates a simulation for us. Language is something that we start learning before we can speak. And it's so deep in us, this complex system of symbols. It's like the programming language that our brain uses. And it is very closely linked to our identity since we think in words. It's the way that I don't have to actually have a baseball. I can say baseball, and you know what I'm talking about. It's the reason you understand the words coming out of my mouth. Because we've been using language for 150,000 years. Long time. Long time. And NLP, as it's called, is particularly good at isolating limiting beliefs because of the way that it works with language. It's good at changing beliefs. It's good at re-imprinting patterns of thought that you want. NLP is widely practiced, and there are tons of good videos on it. I will link a couple of the guys that I think are the best. So hopefully now you have an understanding of if you aren't what you want to be and you have a feeling that you want to change, that there's a direction to go. You figure out the change you want to make and then try to make it from the top down, probably. And if you can do that with the power of your mind, then you can make many changes. You can shift your identity. It's great. And if you don't have the power to do the change that you want, you probably need the 12-step system, because the 12-step system gives you access to a higher power. And with the 12-step system, I would want you to meet my GAFHO, which is on the information sheet in the description. My GAFHO is gratitude, acceptance, faith, help others. And I use my GAFHO all the time. She bad. A gratitude list in the morning is a great way to center yourself. I have a list of healthy habits. If you're doing the 12-step method because you need access to a higher power, you kind of want to use everything that you can get access to help. So I've got some little sayings, the serenity prayer, the steps, all that stuff on the info sheet. The healthy habits are vital for making major changes, because with a healthy body, everything is at least much easier. If you stretch a lot, you will start to notice a difference in how you feel. Drinking a lot of water is like a baseline to be healthy. The meditation, the prayer, the physical stuff, the interrupts for how to regulate your emotions, all of that stuff is really helpful. Leave a comment if you need something. I will do what I can if there is something I can do. So that's the 3 systems, and when to use them and how to try to figure out which one to use. I've got several questions that are kind of like thought-provoking questions to kind of get you started in a direction, hopefully. You want to actually write down what an ideal day for you would look like. You want to write down who you want to be. Describe in detail who you want to be, whether it's just a little bit different version of you or a totally different person. Write that down. Then write down what you would need to do in order to become that person. And then ask yourself whether you would be able to do that. You could try to do it and see, or you can just do a thought experiment and probably figure it out. And then also write down what you want to do but are afraid to do, and you'll know what it is, or maybe there isn't anything. And then write down why you have that fear. These questions will get you going. They hope, get a clean notebook, start a journal, start making a gratitude list every day. That helps everybody. As far as acceptance goes, acceptance is like the shitty side of gratitude. It's knowing the things that you're not grateful for that kind of are bad, that you accept as part of the price of the things that are good. So, everything can't be good. There's a quote in the big book that says, acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. If I'm disturbed, it is because there's some person, place, thing, or something. Basically, that if you can accept all of the things that bother you, then nothing will bother you. There's several things that are really good to keep in mind, and that is that it is okay to not be okay. That if you don't have the power, that there is the power. It does exist. If you don't have the power to make the change does exist. Remember that you are loved as I was, and you are believed in as I was, and I didn't know it until later. Knowing that can help a lot. It is actually a fact. There are people like me that meditate specifically to hear and feel the people out there that are suffering and trying to change and feel alone. So you can have that knowledge. I hope that would help some. Limiting beliefs are often the main obstacle to overcoming and to doing the change that you want. So don't not start because it seems too hard, because probably the only thing in your way is you. And as long as you don't give up, you have not failed. You just aren't successful yet. You have to try to think of a longer time. You have to try to think of the future. You have to realize that every single moment that happened in existence and in your life was to get you to the point that you're at right now. Sometimes that's to realize you need to make a change and make a change. Sometimes it's to realize that you're doing something that you want to be doing well already. It's usually not what we think, and having an open mind is certainly extremely helpful. Doing only the stuff on that sheet, the healthy habits, the GAFHO, serenity prayer, praying only for knowledge of your higher power's will for you and the power to carry that out, and then doing what is directed and letting go of the result of the outcome and letting God deliver, or letting the universe deliver. If you are in a toxic relationship, get out of it. They are a weight around your neck, and usually we don't pull weights around our neck out of the ocean. They pull us out of the lifeboat. If you are struggling with a self-destructive, addictive behavior like drugs or something like that, go to a meeting and get a sponsor and introduce yourself and get some numbers and start working the steps, and you'll be amazed, I promise. I didn't believe it either, and it was incredible. If you're dealing with a serious mental health issue, seek medical professional advice. Remember, I am not certified or licensed in any way. If you are suicidal, call this number, and if you ask for help in the comments, I will do my best. I hope that you help make this video successful by having one person watch it to the end and one person like it. If it helps one person, that is success. My goal is to help others. So if I help someone, then that is success. If you think this video is valuable or think other people would want to see it, please click the things to get it out there more. If you're still watching, then I made this video for you, and thank you for watching. You are my hero. I very much appreciate your support so far while I try to get better at doing this, hopefully helping some people. That is what I'm trying to do. That's where I'm gonna drop it. Until next time, this side or the other.